Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Everybody Eat Show. It's your favorite host here, and we have a really good episode for you guys today. We got a fellow Haitian, Karl Jean-Baptiste. Thank you very much. Oh, from Valley Stream, right? So not only representing Haiti, we representing Valley Stream. So thank you,
Always.
Karl, for hopping on today's episode.
Absolutely. All love
Appreciate
and grace.
Appreciate it. So before we get started, of course, we want to make sure that you are subscribed to our YouTube channel, that you're following us on YouTube. That's where we're dropping all our episodes. Our current event episodes are up on there. Make sure that you are plugged in. Good? Bet. And make sure you're following us on all social media, Instagram, everybody eats pod, Twitter, EBE pod, and wherever you listen to podcasts, we're streaming, we're there, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you listen to podcasts, we're on there. So you don't want to miss out on some gems that we're giving out. All right. So on that note, Karl, Mr. Photographer, if you could introduce yourself, where you from, what do you do, right? Real quick, then we'll get into photography.
God, I
So
hate this part.
take it away.
It's never easy talking by yourself. But good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world, whoever's watching this. I hope everybody's watching this. You know what I mean? Karl Jean. People call me K. People call me K Visual. Photographer from Valley Stream since late 2000s. You know what I mean? Came here in my early teen years. I'm glad they adopted me as one of their own. You know what I'm saying? Been in this photography game for 2021 now. The time really passes, especially with COVID. Been in the photography game since April 1st, 2015. So we're going on 6 years strong.
Okay, let's go.
You know what I'm saying? 6 years strong. You know, probably photograph your favorite artist. I probably photographed your friend. I probably photograph a spot that you always wanted to been to. You know what I mean? So you can just check out my work. Follow me on Instagram at Karl Jean B. Karl with a K, by the way, on Instagram. And make sure you following these guys as well too, because without them, you wouldn't have found me, right?
For sure, for sure. Much appreciated. So you said 6 years. So I remember back, right? This is high school. Like I remember, I think on Instagram or on Twitter, seeing you like you got your camera, you was like posting pictures of like doing shoots with people. I'm like, dang, like yo, that's real dope. Then I remember my senior prom, you were there. I think we was at Elena's house. Shout out to Elena, right? So we was at Elena's crib and then you were there taking pictures. So that's probably like one or two, you said 2015. So that was probably the first, if you said 2015, that was the first year, right?
Yeah.
Because I graduated in
Yeah. Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, that was in the
yeah,
first year
that's
because
crazy. So that was,
started April. Your prom was in June. Yeah.
yeah. So that was your first year, and like I still have one of those pictures. It's actually one of them is on my refrigerator back in New York.
Crazy.
So I still have one of those on my refrigerator. So yeah, man. Like so even so for those listening, even me personally, right? So I've had experience with Carl's work, and then just keeping like your Instagram page over the years, like. I know periodically I hit you up and like, yo, you're doing some amazing work. So I've just seen the progress, seeing I know you do your open studios, seeing the progress. When you go to concerts, I remember there was one point I was like, yo, like is Carl getting hired by these artists to like take these pictures? Like I was just so confused because you were always like up and close, like these dope shots. And I'm like, yo, like these dudes really must be calling him up like to take these like really dope pictures and stuff. But just seeing your work, it's been great seeing you grow and all that. So
Thank you. Much appreciated. Truly.
definitely, definitely. So from the beginning, right? I feel like photography is something pretty popular. I see a lot of people
Yeah.
get into, right? You know, people get a camera, all of a sudden they put photographer in their bio. But you stuck with it, right? That's the difference. Like some people stick with it, some people don't. So you stuck with it.
Exactly.
So talk us from the beginning. Like, what was it? Just so is it something you always want to do? Was it something you kind of just pick up the camera and you liked it? What's the story behind K Visuals and trying to get into the photography business?
Story behind K Visual really kind of formed itself ever since I stepped into Valley Stream. If I'm being honest with you, it was to the point where the original beginnings was me, stealing my family camera, the little point and shoots that people be going on vacation with and whatnot, and using those to, be my photo shoots and my camera and whatnot. You know what I mean? when you're working in middle school and in high school, you never really get to, spend on the luxurious amenities that you want to, you know what I mean? Like a camera for that per se, you know what I mean? So with that being said, growing up, learning the ways of the world and how to maneuver in it, you know what I mean? And of course, with having Haitian parents, everything is school, 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 school. You know what I mean? So telling parents that you want to be a photographer, even if it's not your main squeeze, is kind of like, what? You know what I mean? So it's kind of just like it's not like they don't support it, but it's just like at the time it was just like, yo, like focus on school, you know what I mean? And there was never really, to my knowledge, any other photographers around in Valley Stream, and it's not on some I want to be the first, but it's just like I have the eye for it. People know I have the eye for it. I love colors and other things of that nature. So why not, dive into that field and really make your imprint, not only from Valley Stream, which will be the start, but then we go to the boroughs and then we go to the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's really what it is for me. That's the humble beginnings. Stepped into my first year of college, was able to, work, maneuver, things of that nature. And then, spring 2015, April 1st was literally the day that Amazon order when my first camera came, and the rest is history. Yeah.
Definitely. So
So
were you say you was like playing around with like your family cameras and stuff before, but like when it comes to equipment, right? Like, did you already know what you wanted, or was it kind of just trial and error?
If I'm being honest with you, I take a number of influences and learn from a number of different people, including some of my colleagues. Like I don't know if you guys know my colleague Duval Allen. You understand what I'm saying? Definitely gotta give him a quick shout out because early on in the game. Oh, and my other brother B Rambo, because they both early on in the game definitely took me under their wing per se and taught me the ins and outs of how to maneuver in terms of equipment, in terms of quality and things of that nature. So it was a mixture of those two brothers giving me a good hand and help and inspiration, but also a lot of YouTube. You know what I mean? I also would assist on a number of shoots back in the day, and also would ask questions like, hey, how do you do this? How do you do that? Like, or like, what did you use to get that shot? Whether I be commenting under somebody's post or whether I'd actually be a part of the shoot and learning myself. You know what I mean? Because I like to think that art is an imitation game with a limited amount of originality. You know what I mean? Because art kind of like morphs itself, it revolutionizes itself, like with music per se. You know what I mean? People have been taking photos since like the 1800s. You know what I mean? What's really the difference aside from one color and two quality? You know what I mean? Oh, and how much we can edit the photo now.
yeah.
So that's really what it is. A complicated yet steady learning process from my colleagues to YouTube and being self-taught.
No, definitely. That's a game of self-education there, and that's how you get your best. I like how you said that you assisted on shoots. So that's like that
Best way to get your foot in the door,
Yeah, that's way to get your foot in there, getting that literally like apprentice like experience, like just sitting there watching. Like, okay, I see what kind of angles you got. Okay, bet like I could copy that. Okay, I could.
It's like an unpaid internship.
Yeah, something like
Basically, that. I mean, hey, listen, all internships should be paid, man. It's 2021.
Yeah,
none of that slavery work, all right?
For real. But sometimes that experience, I'm all for a paid internship. I haven't done unpaid.
Oh yeah, I can't relate to be honest.
But sometimes that experience does help out. In your case, right? Sometimes when it comes like assistant, right, that experience does help out. But yeah, definitely pay your internship.
Absolutely.
Nobody wants to work for free.
Yeah.
But that's really cool. It takes like a certain like level of humility to kind of do that. And to know where you are, but to also have that drive to say, I want to get there and I want to learn from this person. I want to learn from there. So taking that certain level of humility to go under someone and to learn and to follow up on shoots and things like that. That's really dope. What would you say are I would say in your years, what would you say are some real like hard like learning points that you learned? Like some tips or maybe some advice that you give to a beginner photographer, they want to just get right into the game. What's some stuff that you learned over the years that you could pass down?
If I'm being completely honest, man, I probably could write a book. But at the same time, I'll give you the main ones. I feel like that should be in the main frame of anybody and everybody, whether you already started shooting or whether you want to. First things first, you got to be confident within yourself. You know what I'm saying? There's thousands and thousands of photographers worldwide, let alone in New York. You know what I mean? If you don't have the confidence in your ability and in your own shot and your own camera to do what you got to do to stand out from everyone, you're going to sink faster than you rise. You know what I mean? So confidence is 100% number one. Two, keep shooting photographically. Photographically. You know what I mean? Because I got to be careful when I say that sometimes, you know?
Yeah.
You know, but on the real, keep shooting because people get discouraged after one bad photo or one bad shoot. Like now, what you have to do, you have to take it, you have to look at it, analyze it, learn from it, and keep it going. And there's nothing wrong with getting other opinions. Three, be open to criticism. I feel like criticism is one of the most essential parts of photography because you got to remember something. Photographers aren't taking these pictures and just looking at them for show. You know what I mean? They're putting it on Instagram. They're putting it on social media. They're submitting it to ads. They're submitting it everywhere. Millions and thousands of people are looking at this photo. So you have to be open to criticism and not defensive criticism, but like realistic criticism, whether they like it or not, the quality, things of that nature. And honestly, this is one of the more intrinsic ones that I tell to everyone, but it's really hard to because it's in our human nature. Do your best not to compare yourself to the next person. Because often on social media, and this is even before social media became a gateway drug to all the things that are issues in today's society. On social media, every day we're looking at photos every single day. And some people don't even realize that. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, you're always looking at photos. Do your best not to compare yourself to someone else. Of course, when we idolize people who are in the same work as us, we're always going to look at their work or people who are in the game the same way we are, and they might be in the same similar atmosphere as you. You might look at their work like, man, that photo is tight. Or like, man, how'd they get to work with that artist? I wish I did. Don't compare yourself. And I learned that early on in the game. Don't compare yourself because some way, somehow, you're going to be able to carve your own path. And that's why how now people are able to say like, yeah, Karl took that photo, not, oh, that photo could be taken by anybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's really the hard liners I would give to anybody, whether you're in the game or not already.
No, definitely. That one of our earlier episodes, the quote was "Comparison is the thief of joy."
Yeah.
That's from like Teddy Roosevelt.
Yeah.
And that is something I have to remind myself a lot, because like you said, you look up whenever you're in a certain field. A lot of times you look up to people, look up to your role models, people in the same field as you, and it's easy to look at that and be like, dang, like why am I not like that? Or I wish I could have it like that. Or I want my shoot photo, I want it to look like his picture. But that's the easiest way to discourage yourself when you're too busy focusing on how someone else looks like or how somebody else does their work. And like you said, with photography, I'm sure it's way easier if you're on social media. And like you said, you're looking at pictures. Everything we look at on Instagram is a picture, whether someone took it or it's a screenshot, right? It's some sort of picture. So it's really easy to get lost in that sauce, so to speak, and staring and looking and idolizing other people.
Yeah, to piggyback off the comparison being the I mean, the time you spend comparing yourself to the other person is the time you could have spent bettering what you do. I think a lot of people, especially now, everybody looks at the winners and not the losers. And within losing comes like the work involved. So you don't know what ex photographer from Brooklyn or whatever is what he or she went through, and how many L's or how many cameras they might have gone through to get to that point. So
amen. And I done been through a couple, I'll tell you that much. So
yeah.
So sure. How do you find your own voice or find your own niche voice, style, swag, sauce, whatever you want to use when it comes to photography? How do you find your shot?
Oh, I have maybe a question to add on to that. You've been doing it for about 6 years now. Is there a way you can tell when, even without like if you were to randomly, have a bunch of photographs taken from people, would you be able to tell like, oh, it's edited this way, so and so, or it's shot this way, so and so is the one who took the picture? Like, do you think is there a way to kind of, how artists do,
spot people's work.
yeah, they do graffiti and stuff, and they have like little signatures and stuff. Is there any way, maybe from a photographer's point of view, you can tell, who and who took X, Y, and Z picture? Out of curiosity.
So I'm gonna hit at your question first, then I'm gonna hit at the question that my boy Bensky initially said. It's in the back of my head. So in general, with any photo, every photo, whether it's taken off a camera, whether it's taken off an iPhone, there's elements to it. I'm not gonna, give you the whole photographic glossary, but to give you a couple, we got sharpness, we got clarity, we got saturation, we have pitch, we have brightness, the whole nine. Nonetheless, I feel as though if you sit in a room, a dark room per se, because that's what I usually do when I'm editing my photos. If you sit in a dark room and you look at and you have an array of photos, I believe that the difference that my photo would be next to most other photos is A, the crispness of the photo, B, my general knack for capturing the true essence of a person, because a lot of my photography does come through portrait photography. So I really have honed in over the past couple of years in capturing somebody's natural beauty. And C, color. I love colors. I can't definitively say that I have a necessary favorite color. My favorite color is always changing, but colors. My photographs will almost always be rather colorful, if I'm being all the way honest with you. Um, but yeah, I think that's so. And it's funny because over the past couple months and 1 to 2 years, people, when they post their own photos that's not on my page per se, and sometimes on my page, people even say, hey, yeah, yo, Karl took that photo. I go, yeah, I could tell you took that photo. And honestly, that's one of the greatest compliments, one of the highest compliments, because it's just like, wow, I thought that my style, not only that it was unique, but I thought it was only been able to be seen by me. But it's
Yeah.
amazing to see that other people who've been following my work for XYZ amount of time, they're able to tell, like, oh, my friend just posted a photo shoot without even looking at the comments or anything or looking at the tags. Karl did that shoot. That's amazing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean that goes honestly all right back to you. That's kudos for your consistency and even not switching up your style or perfecting it to the point where now people can identify it on their end. So that goes, that's all you, man.
You buddy, man. Thank you. Nonetheless, but nonetheless, let's zero back. And I remember my boy Bensky asked me a question, something to the tune of, how do I find my voice? How do I find my niche?
Yeah.
So in photography,
personally, I guess you could apply it to
photography as a whole.
Photographer, yeah. Like how does a photographer find their?
got you. So in general, I guess you could say, from young, truth be told, I've always been an outspoken person, sometimes more than others. You understand what I'm saying? And I feel as though when you hone in on certain talents, I believe that, you should, use those talents to push forward, the proper things. Like if you have a powerful voice, a voice that people look at, a voice that people listen to, I personally believe that you should be using it to do the right thing, to push forward the right, narratives and things of that nature. While in recent years, I've actually been more quieter vocally, but my photographs have been speaking a lot louder than the actual words I've been saying. Honestly, I think truthfully, let me double back. I think it's a mixture of both, because I've slowly become a man of few words, but when it's something that's really of importance, I make it a point to put it out there and avidly say something, especially when it's something important.
Yeah.
Like for example, this past summer, when early summer, I guess you could say, when the George Floyd situation unfortunately happened, I made it a point to appear at the rally that brought Almont and Valley Stream together, and allow people to realize, like, hey, I'm not only just Karl, the photographer, the kid who went to Central, everybody knows for XYZ reason, cool, I think it's also important to put your name, your face, and your voice into, the proper messaging. You understand what I'm saying? Including Black Lives Matter, including loving and respecting one another. And when I'm not doing that vocally at a rally or via one of my Instagram posts, I do it through my photography. Because if I'm being honest with you, I used to be very limited in my choice early on in my photography in terms of the characteristics of the individuals that I would shoot. But in recent years, if you take a good look at my Instagram, my photography has gotten diverse. I love everybody. You understand? I love everybody, no matter who you are, no matter where you're from, no matter what you look like. I love everyone, you know? So a mixture of my own personal personality, my own personal experiences, my ability to connect with people, not only through speaking with them, but through my photography has allowed me to find my comfortable niche in the game. And I often like to, reprise myself as the kid from Long Island because oftentimes I'm also in conversations that are held in the boroughs. Mind you, I live in Valley Stream, you know, but part of my upbringing was in the boroughs, which is also why I can relate and I can understand, those parts as well. But my main home and bread and butter is Valley Stream. And I believe that utilizing my voice as well as my photography is why and how I'm able to find my niche and put an imprint on the culture, and the society, and the photography as a whole.
For sure, that's dope.
You want to get into our quote of the day with
Yeah,
that? I like that was such a sweet way to wrap it up.
I got some more questions, but it'll be better for the last segment.
You got it.
For sure. So yeah, on that note, one, thank you for that background. We'll definitely continue that conversation after the quote of the day. Edom, when you are ready, you can pull that up.
All right. So the quote of the day is: "The man who asks a question is a fool for a minute. The man who does not ask is a fool for life." Quote.
Like some old school, like some old philosopher. Right?
Yeah, it's this philosopher, Chinese philosopher.
Can you run that back for me, boss?
I got you. The man who asks a question is a fool for a minute. The man who does not ask is a fool for life.
Is that Confucius?
Yes, sir.
Oh,
yeah. Because once you said a man is, I'm like, that sounds like my guy Confucius.
I noticed.
Yeah, I've read some of his teachings and such. Yeah, I paid attention in social studies.
Good. Yeah, I'm so glad he guessed it because that whole like the giving the clues point, that shit would have been rough.
Ain't nobody remember that high school social studies. Nah, man, I'm hip to that. Love Confucius, and so much of it applies today, and people don't even realize it.
Word. So I was gonna say, so now that's since you got it right, you got to give your take on it.
So now you're asking me to think.
In layman's terms, yeah. But when you really think about it, I mean, listen, a lot of these teachings that come from, our ancestors and or just ancient ones as a whole, in the complex society that's ever always growing, and that's like, everlasting, making opinions at things, whether people agree or not. The main question that we all could or would ask ourselves is, is he wrong? Or also, is he right? You understand? Because let's break down that quote right quick. And trust me, I won't talk your ear off. A man who asks the question is a fool for a minute. Listen, I wouldn't call a man or a woman a fool, because the thing about it is, it's better to be ignorant and have the ability to acknowledge that and want to educate yourself, as opposed to being an actual fool, pretending to act like you know everything and you don't. And when life tests you, it strips you naked because you weren't prepared, or you don't truly know, and you weren't educated. That's my take on it. And can you run back the second part of that quote for me?
So second part is: a man who does not ask a question is a fool for a lifetime.
And that, crazy enough, touches into what I just said, because a man who or woman who does not want to educate themselves, listen, life is going to run you a whole bunch of tests before it teaches you those lessons. Crazy, right? So with that being said, somebody who lacks the ability to acknowledge and or want to educate themselves, depending on, what the topic, subject matter is, of course, they're often going to be handled a number of tests that, unfortunately might not go in their direction. Why? Because they lack the ability to want to educate themselves, because they don't have the ability, for whatever XYZ reason, to just want to ask a question. You know, I believe that there are no stupid questions in life, although there are stupid questions in life. But I believe that you should always ask a question, especially if you do not know. Because the more you know, the more successful you are. The less you know, the less successful you are. But teach is their own.
Nah, that's a fact. So it kind of goes back to that humility aspect too, because I think like a lot of people, sometimes I go through this at work, and I have to overcome this. And this is something I still go with or struggle with or work through a lot. So it's not like, I'm holier than thou, but sometimes it's kind of like a pride slash humility issue where I don't want to look like I don't know by asking the question, or and it's like you're doing yourself a disservice, because in the meantime, while you're sitting here either being too prideful to ask, or you don't have the humility to ask, you're getting it wrong, or you're doing it wrong, or you're not being successful, whatever the issue is, you're not doing what you want. Then when you sit down and admit like, hey, I do not know this task, I do not know how to take this picture, I do not know how to set up this equipment, right? When you ask that question, how do you do that? Yeah, maybe at first it may feel a little bit weird. Oh, I don't want to act like I'm stupid. But then once you get it, you get it. Now you're fine. Now you know. Now you can teach someone else. Now everybody eats, right? So like that's the point. Like there's no harm in being ignorant. It's like a quote from one of the animes, right? It might have been Fire Force. Is it Fire
Oh, it
Force?
was fire with
I don't know if it was, but there's like some anime, but it's like it's a similar quote. It's like there's no harm in being weak. It's
there's
weak.
nothing wrong with being weak.
Staying
Staying
weak
weak is the problem. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
I
it's
agree.
kind of like that. Like there's no harm in being ignorant for a moment. Like
Yeah.
if you don't know, there's no shame in that. But staying ignorant, that's the issue, because now you have the ability to change that. And now you're not being proactive and trying to learn.
And I think I don't know if you're done, but
No, you're good.
okay, to piggyback off that, I think the person who does ask the question first is in the analogy or quote, sorry, the person who asked the question first, I think has more self-awareness in addition to the humility and whatever it takes to ask that question. Whereas the person
100%.
who doesn't ask the question, maybe they're not. I mean, this is based on how you view it. But to me, if you don't have that self-awareness, you're ignorant in some aspect of whatever you're doing. So the person who doesn't ask the question and never asks the question is, in this example, the ignorant person or the fool.
Right.
And even politically, or just in day-to-day lives now, especially now in last year with everything that happened, someone who asks questions is also synonymous with someone who is willing to hear another side, see how the other side lives, how the other half lives, how their racial or gender counterpart lives, and how they get along in society, X, Y, and Z, and all that stuff. And those who refuse to move with the times, change with the times, they got their heads down. I think we said that a couple of weeks back, but they have their heads down, and they're the ones continuing their life as the fool / ignorant person. So
That's a fact.
yeah.
That's a fact.
I agree.
Don't be afraid to ask those questions. So let us wrap up. Could you say that quote one more time, and we'll wrap up this segment?
The man who asks a question is a fool for a minute. The man who does not ask is a fool for life. Confucius.
Confucius.
All right. On that note, let us transition to our final segment. I want to cover now that we kind of covered the tips of photography. I'm curious on how do you actually scale a photography business, or like as an individual,
Or scale photography to a business.
or scale photography to a business, right? So that's a better question. All right. So like, say I got my camera and now I want to start shooting people, right? I want to start shooting people. I kind of want to grow. Obviously, it's not going to happen overnight. But what are ways that you did yourself, right? I know that you have your open studio days, but I know that didn't happen like first year, right? But how were ways that you scaled it to grow as an individual to get your art out there and to grow?
Gotcha. So with that being said, first things first, I like to drop a quote of practice makes permanence, because you have to practice your craft in order to permanently be good at your craft. Be good enough to the point where people will want to buy into your craft. You understand? Nobody starts something on the first day, when they're already making money from it. You understand what I'm saying? Unless they fall into a scenario where it's not about what you do, it's about who you know, which is a lot of what we do nowadays, unfortunately. But that's neither here nor there. Nonetheless, in life, especially when it comes to the arts, oftentimes, if I'm being real, you have to do a couple of free things before you start getting paid.
Yeah, one more time. One more time.
In life, sometimes in art, a lot of the times, if we're being honest, you have to do a couple of free things first before you start getting paid.
I love how we did that at the same time.
And why, Karl? Why you gotta do that?
Because let me give a quick example. You, me, anyone else. Let's remove me, Karl. Let's remove me, K Visual. Let's say I was just a regular person named Karl. I have a regular Instagram or so, and I just post myself and, family vacations or whatever may have you. I purchase a camera. I put an ad on Instagram, or I go up to my friends like, hey, let me photograph you for your portfolio or whatever. Okay, what does it entail? Oh, well, before we go forward, it's going to be $200. All right, excellent. Let me see your work.
Exactly.
But you have no work to show. You have no work to pull from. You have no progress to show. You have no material. You have no story. You have no background, which goes back to what I said in terms of you have to do a couple of free things before you start getting paid. And as much as people don't like to admit that, I'm very transparent and vulnerable. So if I'm being honest with you, till now, sometimes I'm still doing free shoots or free collaborations because I'm not 100% where I want to be photographically. But the thing about it is, too many people often fixate on the free and don't understand that those collaborations, those experiences are going to propel you to the business, propel you to the bigger dollars that you're seeking. Those free collaborations or free shoots, and I keep emphasizing free because that's something that artists will never want to hear. But in the beginning stages, you have to do it. You have to do it. But after a certain point, when you have a crowd, when you have a number of individuals who really appreciate your work, who really like your work, put a price on it. How much do you think this picture is worth? How much do you think you're worth?
That's my follow-up question. How do you price
your services,
your services?
And if we're being completely honest, for a beginner, if I'm being real, from the very beginning, I remember one of the first times someone asked me, hey, what are your prices? And it wasn't at the point where I was, charging for shoots yet. My very first paid shoot, you want to know how much it was, man? $40.
$40. Hey, I start somewhere, yo.
You got to start somewhere.
You remember how many photos?
Too many, I'll say that.
They hit the biggest lick.
Big time. You know what I mean? So with that being said, you have to price yourself accordingly. You have to price your work accordingly because there's so many things to take into account, from the travel to the taking of the photos to a number of things, And with that being said, it's just like, how much do you believe in yourself? How much, if you weren't yourself, how much would you want to pay to have somebody to take photos of you? And of course, people will easily be like, oh, I don't want to pay nothing. I want to save my money. I want to spend my money on something else or whatever may have you. But remove all of that ignorance and be real. People want graduation shoots. People want birthday shoots. Some people just want to shoot. You know what I mean? And I come across all those kind of people all the time. So if you were one of those people, how much would you want to pay? Not only that, but with art comes progression. At least I would hope for any and every artist. With art comes progression. If after almost 6 years in the photography game, I'm still doing $40 shoots, there's got to be something wrong. Either my photos are still the same trash quality, or I really am not that financially literate to be upping my prices accordingly, you know? So with that being said, it really boils down to the person in of themselves. Of course, I always say, include your expenditures, including, all right, the programs that you're using, the travel cost, the editing time that you're going to put into it, and ultimately the quality of the photos that you are giving someone. It's funny because to this day, I personally like to pride myself on being a financially friendly photographers, because some of the prices that, and it's no knock to them at all whatsoever, but some of the prices that my colleagues charge, listen, my eyes come out like a cartoon character when I hear those prices. But at the same time, I look at their work and I'm like, I actually don't see a problem with it. It's just shocking to me because I don't charge that.
Yeah.
Yet. You know what I mean? So yeah, so it really boils down to the person and the worth of their work. And one of the number one things you have to do as an artist when it comes to setting up your business in terms of photography, from your work being good, your marketing, your word of mouth, business cards, you understand what I'm saying? And like I said, you have to do a couple of free things to get your foot in the door. I don't photograph a baby shower for free. Hell, a small wedding for free. I've done it all before. And honestly, you have to, unfortunately. But it'll all pay off.
For sure. Gary Vee says that, talks about that a lot. When you're trying to get your foot in the door in some industry, you gotta DM people. You gotta offer your services. You gotta, give off value for free when you're starting off, because no one knows you. No one knows who you are.
If you're a model, you gotta do it for free. You can't ask them.
You gotta give off some services.
Exactly.
Saying you have to provide value, like you said, before you have that portfolio or you have that experience behind you, where you can be like, hey, peep my work. This is why I'm charging that, because you can see the type of quality that I have. But now I feel like this is another interesting question, right? So, dealing with customers, right, or dealing with clients, right? This is the part I feel like.
What's the pricing argument like?
Yeah, I feel like this is some stuff that people don't always talk about. How do you deal with, kind of like a two-part question, like how do you deal with people who either fight you on your prices or be like, oh, it's not worth that, / what was like your worst client experience? If they're not the same.
Oh, he got a story ready. Look.
That's funny. Nonetheless, that client price conversation, if I'm being honest with you, it's always uncomfortable. It's always uncomfortable because at the end of the day, you never want to lose a client, never lose out on money. One thing I would like to say, I am not money motivated. I actually love photography way past the money that it brings me. It brings me joy. It's a source of therapy. But also at the same time, if you're good at something, you don't always have to do it for free. You know what I mean? So yeah, why don't you, monetize it, build on it, because you know what they say, if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life, right?
I posted that today. That's crazy. That was actually one of my reels today, talking about that quote.
And it's true, you know what I mean? So like, while it's not my career at this particular juncture, but hypothetically speaking, let's say the man upstairs says, you know what, you're going to be a full-time photographer and you're going to get paid for it. I don't think I'd ever complain about my job. Maybe the people, but not my job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But with that being said, when it comes to uncomfortable patient price conversations, I always remind them. I think I said patient. I mean customers. Sorry, I'm in the medical. But yeah, wow. But nonetheless, I think I always remind them of the fact that the photo shooting process is not as easy as they may think. They may think the photographer comes up and takes some photos and just leaves and do a 1-2 on a computer and boom, there's your photos. No, it's a lot more that goes into that, you know? Things like travel, things like photo editing, and photo editing can take anywhere between a couple of minutes to a number of hours, you know? And things of that nature, and also the number of photos that they want. If you want 5 photos, all right, I can get that to you in a couple minutes or something like that. But if you want a number of photos, that's going to take a number of hours or a number of days. And people often also forget that photographers have lives too. You know, it's not always after the shoot they're going home to work on your photos. They might have other clients, they might have other responsibilities and things to do. So often I have to remind people that photo shooting is more than just me having a good eye and being able to make you look good and snap the shutter button. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a lot more to that. And if I'm being honest, yes, I've lost clients that way. And yes, I've still managed to still gain clients that way. And, you know, bless all the people that I've worked with, whether it was paid or not paid. Shout out to everyone over these past 6 years. And even if I didn't work with you, I just hope that, you know, you eventually found what you were looking for, photographically speaking, you know, because in times like these, I've learned that people are appreciating photos a whole lot more, which is good, you know. But at the same time, I understand that times are hard. And it's funny because sometimes the people who got it are still the cheap ones as well. I must say that. But you know, you just got to keep it real with people. And honestly, this is something that a lot of customers may not want to hear from the people that they'll potentially employ. But if you always allow people to drop your prices on you,
Yep.
you always allow people to demean you and force you into a situation where you feel like you have to do it for free or you have to do it significantly lower or even lower at all by any margin, you'll never be able to fully take yourself seriously, nor will that person be able to ever fully take you seriously in terms of word of mouth. Because that person could easily turn around and go tell that person, yeah, he was charging me 500, but I was able to talk him down to 300. Maybe he'll do the same thing for you. Nah, I don't work like that. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. So you have to put your foot down. You have to know what you're worth, and you have to stick by it. Because to be completely honest with you, while one person may not pay that price, another person will look at your work, realize your worth, and they will pay it. And I'll be completely honest with you, my lowest photographic package right now starts from 150, right? My lowest starts currently at 150. You know, some people still tell me that's too expensive, you know? Yeah. So listen, and peace be to them, but I never go any lower than that.
Yeah.
Ever.
Got it. Hey, that's what you.
I mean that especially don't sell yourself short, because at that point it goes back to confidence, like you said. That means if you're willing to change your price because of what someone says, because you don't want to lose a customer, it does reflect on your confidence and your ability and what you're doing. And you never. I think we said this before, but I mean, I'm remembering a time that happened. You never let anyone ever set a price on your work. Never do that, because that's bullshit and they don't know. They don't know what you're doing. But you did bring up what photographers have to go through. And I remember a couple of times in college, you know, I had friends take pictures, or they brought their cameras in that day. And I was like, hey, you know, take a picture or something. And I remember always in the back of my head afterwards, I was like, all right, cool, I should probably get it like tomorrow, right? And you said, like, you know, they might you know, he or she might have clients right after, they might have responsibilities, you know, we don't know what they're doing outside of, you know, for the most part we may not know what they're doing outside of photography. So that's something I really did not think about. And even the like you said, the travel price, you know, remember we did a shoot and, you know, we took the bus and the train to get there, and that, you know, that took us about an hour. And you really forget the photographer has to go through the same thing, whether it be gas or a bus fare swipe, you know. So
that was a dope shoot. I know what you're talking about.
Oh yeah, that was a dope shoot. Yeah, so you forget, you know, the photographer, you know, the photographer doing this too. So, you know, it's not just, you know, whatever you think might be acceptable to pay for just the pictures doesn't just cover just.
That's true.
It's the entire experience.
It's the entire experience, and that's something you really, I think you really forget about. But at the same time, I do feel like it's something not stressed when I hear about, like, when I hear about photography. You know, nobody ever really talks about that. You're the first person to say that. You know, the photographer goes through it too. And of course, it's something, you should kind of think about, but at the same time, it's easy to forget,
Yeah, you're just
People
thinking
are,
about straight
people,
pictures.
people excited to get pictures. You got on a nice ass fit. You're trying to, post that up on Instagram, get some DM slides or whatever. Just, look at it later and feel real good. So yeah, it is very easy for that to go to the wayside. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Sure. So yeah, some experiences. I'm interested, right? So for people want to get into photography, they have to know how it really is, right? How it looks like on the good days and how it looks like on the bad days. So obviously you don't have to give no names if you want to, but like some best shoot experiences, whether it's a singular client, concert, and then worst experiences.
For me, let me think a little bit. I think I'll give you a couple of my best, then I'll give you a couple of my worst, because a couple of my worst, I definitely done dodged some bullets, if I'm being honest, figuratively speaking. But nonetheless, I think some of my best was when I photographed Miguel one year at Afropunk. When I photographed Miguel one year at Afropunk, and he actually pointed right at my camera, like directly right at my camera, like while we were right in front, making eye contact and everything. So that was pretty cool. I think it was 2016 and 17. One day I'm at one of my first medical jobs and whatnot, and earlier like some days ago and whatnot, I had photographed little Uzi Vert here on Long Island, and my phone starts blowing up and people are like, "Oh, Karl, little Uzi Vert posted your photo. He posted your photo." And I'm like, what are people talking about? Like, that was a low content on Long Island. I don't think anybody's really paying attention to it. But at the same time, Lil Uzi Vert was, rising up the ranks and blowing up. And would you behold, I went to his Instagram page, and yes, he posted my photo. Fortunately, he didn't tag me, but but it's cool because that photo was all over the hip hop blogs and everything. And I'm not gonna lie, like, it was a very great feeling. Also, another year at Afropunk, this artist named Carrie Foe, she actually hit me up and thanked me for taking photos of her, and she posted them on her page and tagged me on her Instagram and on her Twitter. 100%. And also, lastly, one of my favorite moments, it was directly but indirectly. So I believe we're in 2021. I think 2018 or 2019. I'm at a Playboy Cardi concert on Long Island, and the concert's going, everything is moving, and we're moving and grooving, getting the shots off, and unfortunately somebody went out through one of the fire escapes, the fire doors, and the whole concert got shut down. The whole place got evacuated. The concert wasn't even halfway done yet, and it just really left a bad taste in my mouth. Everybody was so confused and whatnot, and it was just like, yo, will he ever come back? Will he ever come and finish the concert? Things of that nature, and would you behold, the very next year, he did come back again. This was when Dial It was out. He did come back again, and his management actually approved of me to photograph him again, and even sent a note to me through the venue like, "Hey, we remember you from last year. We appreciate you. We're back. We definitely, want you to come back and, do your thing and whatnot." And like, that was like a full circle kind of moment, because I think the year before, it was right before Christmas, and then the year after, he came a little bit after Christmas. So it's kind of like literally a 365. Like, oh wow, I was finally able to finish photographing him, literally. So yeah, it was cool. It was cool. Great concert. He puts on a show. But yeah. What some of my worst experiences was, let me think. All right, cool. In general, one thing I actually do not like is when I do a photo shoot with somebody and they like the photo. Even when I send it to them, they like the photo, and then they put a filter over it.
Yeah. We have a friend who said he was complaining about the same thing. They like that. They edit it right over your shit.
It kills me, because, and if I'm being honest with you, people hate when I say this. And I've actually gotten to a back and forth with somebody over it, and I stood my ground. And it's true, for me personally, as a photographer, we do a shoot, edit the photo. We both agree on it. I send you the photos. You still like it. We both agree on it and such and such. The moment that somebody makes any kind of alteration, especially an obvious one at that's one of your photos, it's no longer my photo. You know what I mean? That's for me. It's no longer my photo. I don't care if I'm the one who shot it. I don't care if I'm the reason why it's black and white or why that color is that color. The moment you put some kind of filter or crazy alteration on it, it's no longer my photo. Because I didn't put that on your Instagram page. I didn't do that. You did that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's one thing I can't rock with. I think a couple of my negative that's one thing that, let me not say occurs often, but more often than these negative experiences that I'm about to delve into.
It's like seasoning the food like right in front of the chef. So
Exactly, you know what I mean? Nonetheless, one of my worst was actually what was it now? I love her music, but one year I actually photographed Willow Smith at Afropunk, and she literally went on my page, screenshotted the photos I took of her off my page, then posted it on her Instagram. And in one of the slides, like slide photos, you can see like my name at the bottom, and I'm just like, why didn't you just tag me and ask me for them? I would give them to you. Why'd you do that? You know what I mean? And then you see everybody under her post like, hey, give Karl credit, give Karl credit. I'm like, never mind, man. But hey, listen, still love her and the Smith family, man. Great people, love her music, all of that. Another negative experience was what can I say? Another negative experience was, this was early on in my photography days. This is when I guess I was young and gullible. So there was one day I was doing a studio shoot here at the residence, and humble beginnings. And I wouldn't call her a best friend or a friend, but me and her were cool. We were very cool, more than cordial, things like that. You know what I mean? Former colleague, honestly. But so she said, oh, she didn't get paid yet. Can we still do the shoot? XYZ. And you know me, I'm a nice person. I'm like, all right, yeah, cool. No problem. Absolutely. Like, oh, I get paid XYZ day. I'm gonna pay you that day. I'm like, listen, that's fine. That's no problem. But I also did kind of overlook that she was part of some sketchy activity. Didn't necessarily know if that ambiance would come over to me and my business. But unfortunately, she did. And you want to know what's even crazier? So this girl, right? Instead of me editing the photos, I never fully got to edit the photos. The reason why is because she bought her laptop. So she swayed me into thinking that after the shoot was done, she just put my memory card in and drop the photos on her laptop so she could just have them right away. And then whatever I edit later on, I also could send to her, and then she'll also pay me later on. Let me tell you boys something, man. I never got paid, all right? I never got paid. And it's crazy because ever since then, I never spoke to her. We done seen each other in and around the valley once or twice before, but I never spoke to her ever again. I did hit her up multiple times, like, yo, you ain't pay me. Like, what's up? What happened? You know what I mean?
Phone don't work.
Yeah, phone don't work. First time she gave me an excuse. Next couple times she ignored my text. She ignored my calls. Like, yo, what's crazy about it is I'm just thinking to myself, I'm like, Karl, why the hell would you put your photos on her laptop? She got the photos, bro. She got what she go pay for nothing. Man, I'm just a nice guy, man. I learned my lesson. But that arguably is like, I mean, me personally, I don't hold no grudges, but I still think about that to this day, man. I'm like, wow, son, I really got. That's crazy. Oh,
we got one.
Yeah, man. You know what I mean? But yeah, man, never again. And I guess other negative experiences would be people trying to diminish or devalue my price, which I don't allow to happen anymore, at least, because before I used to fall victim and feel guilty for pricing the way I did until
that's part of being nice, yo. Honestly, at that point, like, I get it too. I'm a real nice guy. Don't mean to my own horn, but it definitely comes. You kind of feel bad. You kind of you kind of value or you put yourself too much in that person's shoes, kind of. You feel a little bad, just a little bit too much.
Can I afford that?
Yeah.
Exactly. I get it.
I
That's
swear.
their problem.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
their
And
problem,
honestly, that ain't
Because
nobody
they'll spend that same money on some
on
BS,
something else, bro.
you know?
If you were someone else, if you were freaking J. Cole, some shit, J. Cole the photographer, they dropped that on in an instant. So honestly, I had to tell my sister this today, but yeah, ain't nobody gonna take care of what you gotta do but you, so don't feel bad. But I have a real quick question before we wrap up. You got
Awesome.
5 minutes. So you said, of course, if you don't want to share, that's up to you. But you say you photograph these artists like Willow Smith. How do you and Playboy Cardi? How do you get that access? If you can spill the sauce. If not, we can talk about offline. I ain't gonna start photographing people. But you and I got another boy. His name Brian Rosado. He's like One Lens on Instagram. I don't know if you know him, but he did something similar with I think Tidal had an award show or something, and on his page he had a lot of pictures of Bad Bunny, Karl G, all that good stuff. So I was wondering, like how does that happen?
That's one of the number one questions I get asked, if I'm being honest with you. While I personally cannot reveal the sauce, because if I'm being honest, some of these agreements actually came under NDA. Under NDAs, you know what I mean? So like,
Yeah.
I got the permission when to post the photos, when not to. It's a NDA is NDA, so I can't say all of those things. You know what I mean? Because some of them were paid as well. But with that being said, one thing I can give some tips. I don't mind doing that. Number one, be persistent. Number two, you have to be annoying to some extent on social media. Number three, do your best to get the email and the contact of the venue that's hosting said artist. 3 and 4, forgot what number I'm at. Try and get the emails, because sometimes it's actually in their Twitter bios, of course. Try and get the emails of the artist's management, because you never know. They actually look at their emails. I mean,
they do. Yeah, that's how we gotta guess.
That's how we get
bro. That's how we got Ace Ving, bro. Somebody looks through their stuff. So yeah.
Exactly. They look at their emails. So if you approach them in the proper way and things of that nature, you know what I mean, you can make it happen. You know what I mean? You can make it happen. The one where like I'll like shed light out, because it was truly like just a cool mutual bonding experience and whatnot. I photographed Fabulous back in, I think, 2016 or 17, one of them. He came to my college, and how that happened was literally I knew what date the concert was, and mind you, I didn't buy tickets for it because it was already sold out. You know what I mean? Because I kind of thought I was too cool for school in a sense. You know what I mean? Like, it's Fab, whatever. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it's also just like, nah, like I do want to photograph him, man. He's a legend. You know what I mean? New York legend, music-wise, that is.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, what I actually literally did to photograph Fabulous on Twitter, almost, I think about for 3 weeks prior to the concert, I actually added him on Twitter every single day. Hey, my name is Karl. You're coming to my college. Can I photograph you? Hey, my name is Karl. You're coming to my college. Can I photograph you? And literally for every single day. Sometimes it would annoy my fellow Twitter followers, but I didn't even care. Sometimes people, they would like it. They would, retweet it to get his attention since he's tagged in it. And would you behold, I believe it was 2 or 3 days before the concert, he actually put out a tweet talking about, hey, somebody was hitting me up about photographing my show tonight in Brooklyn at LIU, like hit me up. So I went frantic. I'm DMing him. Yo, it was me. I'm the one who's been tweeting you, because these are artists after all. So you can only imagine they're getting mentioned by
so many other
thousands.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? So it's easy for your tweet to get lost in the sauce. You know what I mean? Unless it goes viral, that is. So what would you behold? I'm like, yo, I'm in his DM, like, yo, it was me. I was the one who was tweeting at you and whatnot. And I got a little nervous, but the very next day, he actually DM'd me back like, got you, you're locked in. What's your number? We're going to contact you once we reach the college. So the concert day comes. I was able to snag a last minute ticket. And I'm just like, all right, don't tell me I'm about to sit in the stands and try and photograph this man. This wasn't a part of the plan. You know what I mean? But would you behold, one of his peoples actually called me while I was in my seat, and Boss was performing right before him. So I'm just, enjoying Boss, XYZ. Shout out to those folks at Dreamville. And one of Fab's folks called me like, hey, yo, where you at? We're in the back, the private entrance. And would you behold, it was his people's. And I went to the back, and then they escorted me in, went into the dressing room, and literally we chopped it up. He loves to drink tea before his shows, which I found pretty interesting. You know what I mean? And we chopped it up, took a couple photos of him in the dressing room, things like that. And then was able to walk out with him and his whole crew onto the stage. And I had a, front door access to everything and things like that. So it was a cool experience. And, the next day, the same night, he DM'd me like, yo, appreciate you. Here's the email to send the photos to. So I was up till like 1, 2 in the morning editing those photos. Like, nah, bro, I just shot Fab, man. And then literally I wake up the next morning. I mean, listen, I'm a humble guy and whatnot. So the next day I had class. I had to go back to Brooklyn, for class. The concert was over. But I did wake up the next morning to Fab posting 2, 3 of my photos on his page, and people blowing up my phone like, yo, he posted your photos, blah, 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 this, that, and the third. And yeah. And that was the first artist, well, him and Boss, but that was the first artist I ever photographed. It was fabulous.
That's real dope.
No, that's a great story.
That's a great
dope
story. That's a great story. And great story to end it on too. But yo, the one easy gem, like we say this all the time, yo, DM people, hit up their email.
Slide them shits.
Slide in those DMs.
Let it fly.
And look for those email addresses. Yo, their job is to book those guests for something. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know, 100 plus shots, yo. Yeah, literally, their one job is to monitor that stuff. They are paying.
Exactly.
They're paying. They are management to look through those emails and to book their artist for something. If you got a podcast, yo, hit them up. Would you like to be a guest on our podcast? If you do photography, videography, if you do art, if you do covers, whatever. Don't sleep on emailing people because you never know how far an email can go.
Absolutely.
But that's the last gem for today.
So before we wrap it up,
yeah.
We asked in the beginning if you could add a song to our playlist. Describing some either just your photography business / your journey with photography, or something you've been listening to a lot lately.
A song that I would
and just to start it off, I'm gonna add "Leave the Door Open" by Bruno Mars and Anderson .Paak and Silk Sonic, because that has been playing in my head the entire time we've been talking.
Their performance at the Grammys,
amazing.
Telling you, best performance of the night. If I'm being honest, I've been listening to this song a lot lately. Actually, it's between 2 songs, but I'm gonna go with this one song. It's actually "What It Feels Like" with Nipsey Hussle and Jay-Z. It was from the Judas and the Black Messiah album soundtrack. Yeah, that song, rest in peace to the great Nipsey Hussle, you know what I mean? So when it comes to, the black man and being better and divulging in yourself, investing in your business, you know what I mean? He did harp on those things, not only in his interviews, but especially through his music as well. For example, with this song with Jay-Z, you know what I mean? So that's a song not only for me, but for how I carry myself in life, and also applies to my photography as well,
For sure. So,
and if I may mention one thing, this right here is actually my first publication ever, which actually came out last summer, which I actually had print it out, and I just hang it up in my room.
That's dope.
That's
Yeah.
dope.
So it was for Voyage LA magazine. Yeah, man. It was shot at one of Kanye's old houses in LA when I went last June. So yeah, I actually have this hanging up in my room right above my bed. Every morning I wake up, I look at it, and I'm like, yeah, there's gonna be more of these in the near future.
Yeah.
That's what's up.
That's dedication right here, y'all. Y'all listening.
So on that note, how can people before we wrap it up, how can people find you? What's your social media? How can people book shoots and all that good stuff?
With that being said, Carl K Visual, don't matter how you call me, I'm open to all of them. My Instagram is Karl Jean B, KarlJeanB on Instagram or Twitter as well. Or you could just go to karljeanb.com and hit me through there. You could, view my work a lot more expandively than on my Instagram. And listen, I'm a down to earth person. If you want to email me, go ahead. If you want to DM me, go ahead. Please don't call me. I know Instagram give you that option. There's some folks who done called me before, and I'm just like, hello, who's this? Like, hey, I want to book a shoot. I'm like, could you text me? Because I mean, they already got my number at that point. So I'm just like, yeah, just text me, I guess. But please don't call me. Just DM an email. When it's time to shoot, then we'll exchange the numbers. You know what I mean?
I'm gonna just look at it.
Exactly. I'm just like, who's this? Scam likely? All right.
Funny. All right. So you guys heard the man. So that's how you reach out. So as we're wrapping up, if you stuck out to the end of this episode, right, make sure that you are following us on YouTube. That's where we have all our videos. So that's Everybody Eats Show on YouTube. Make sure that you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are growing it out. All our episodes are on there, our regular episodes, our current event episodes, and soon webinars will be up there too, right? So those will have more details out in the next coming weeks. So make sure that you are plugged in on social media, on Instagram. That is everybodyeats.pod on Instagram, on Twitter, EBEpod. And again, wherever you stream, listen, view, wherever you get your podcasts, we're on there. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Everybody Eats Show. Make sure you are plugged in. You're there. Thank you, Carl, for being on today's episode. Learned a lot.
Not a doubt.
And we'll see you guys next week. Peace.
Peace.
Peace.